Hey guys, it's Matt. Look at this. Lululemon stands by its decision to fire employees who intervened in robbery. Employees risk their lives intervening on behalf of the corporation, which is probably part of Amazon, which is probably part of the one not nil corporation that rules everything, the one ring to rule them all. They risk their lives to protect the store. You're fired. They clearly told these people that you are not to intervene. Uh, the safety of our team, and they call them, what do they call them? They call them educators. Our team of educators comes first. The safety of everyone. They broke the policy. They're out. Um, Guys, I don't look at CNN much, but what's that? That's the beer commercial. I don't often drink beer, but when I do, it's Dos Equis. I don't often look at CNN much, but when I do, it's before these types of videos where I'm just saying hi to you and popping in so you know I'm not some sort of stable diffusion character, which is seems to be will be a running theme with retarded commenters for now for the future because of what the AI can do. They're always Matt took a beating because he wore a certain sweatshirt. Matt took a beating because he had a number on a T-shirt. Now it will loom out there forever that Matt is could potentially be some sort of AI. Well, what about 14 years ago? Did they have the same set of AI? What? Okay, guys, there's a theme where these companies are, the Not Milk is an incredible evil genius and a worthy adversary. There's this theme where thieves know that no one will intervene. This message, and it's not new. This message from corporations has been around really strong for the past 5 years or so. Even when I worked part time, seasonal, 3 or 4 years ago down here, and they told us, they said, you will see theft. Don't do absolutely do nothing. And the people that give those instructions they believe in what they're told. It's for the safety of the employees, but it's all part of the not milk moves society and culture very incrementally. And although these cameras exist, I mean, as thieves and just the hoodlums of the world get a sense that, I mean, and it's not nothing new. They were doing it when I worked down here. They're just brazen, and I've had people tell me they've actually had people smile at the employees as they do it and just walk out. No, there's a security camera, but how many are going to be prosecuted? It's almost like, you know what I would say, like the not milk society is allowing this. It's wanting this sort of thing. The more I think about what is this not milk at the screen level. It is a chaos lord. It's not order from chaos or whatever the stupid Latin is that we were told to parrot back and quote in the truth community. It is a chaos lord. It might take a step back for its 2 steps forward. The 2 steps forward are always towards more societal chaos or not being able to rely on the systems that we once could rely on. New York residents urged to stay indoors as unhealthy air quality from Canadian wildfires persists. As you know, guys, I'm just outside of Philadelphia, and I think we've had 3 good days of rain in 2 months. Now, that might seem a lot to people that live in California, but this is not what we're used to here. I mean, it typically rains about one day a week all year long here. Get a little snowfall a week, get a little rain in the winter. It doesn't go dry for 2 or 2.5 months, and that's basically where we've been. Luckily, we had 3 really good days of rain in the middle of it. At least in the Philadelphia area, we would be in a world of hurt here. Now, it does smell. I mean, if there's a wildfire somewhere, when I go outside, I can smell it. I think that there's wildfires in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. And it was reported, yeah, yesterday or 2 days ago, the Phillies game, it went down to Citizens Bank Park. The baseball game was just a haze of smoke, and that it's just not, it's just very strange for this part of the country. I know Portland, a year or two ago when Oregon just got hammered. I don't know, if that's happening again there this year. But again, it's just, they've had the patents for weather modification have existed, since the 40s or since the 30s. And, all we see are the tails of chemicals all the time. They will never, ever, from a government's perspective, step forward and say, whether it be Portland a year or two ago, or Los Angeles, or Southern California, which has been very dry, 8 out of the last 10 years. They'll never step forward and say, we're going to try to do something to help. It's just it's incredible. It really is. So I guess this is our turn here, as everything is turning brown. And when this happens, it really bothers the heck out of me because I do care so much for the natural world. Um, as you know, my wake up process has been becoming more of an emotional being, very caring about, and I know it's slightly hypocritical from your perspective and mine that I'll say, well, Matt, you come forward and say the world isn't very real, and the last video was about a Mandela effect, the world just changes before our eyes, but okay, I hear you, but I don't know how much of the world or the natural world is separate from the outer ring, which I call the screen or the not milk. I know that is entirely artificial and fake. Entirely. It can't get more fake than what I believe that to be. But the natural world or the game board of this earth or life experience, I mean, I think that is also an illusion of some sort, but I don't believe these animals and birds are just background characters. I think even trees. I don't think it's as simple as just saying it's like painting a background for a Hollywood movie. So a month ago I noticed the little what are they called? Canadian geese. We have a ton of these big, huge Canadian geese, and about a month ago their ducklings were about half size. So I drive out to get food this morning. I think, where are these ducklings getting their food and their water? It just really, and again, this is nothing so far compared to what California has been through, certain parts of Oregon and Washington State, certain parts of the Dakotas in terms of the dryness that they've seen over the last 10 to 15 years. So I don't know. It's our time, I guess, to get hit here. But it is strange. I mean, we last summer it was green all summer. I mean, the grass through August was green. I mean, and then to see the ballpark like and filled with smoke, and to go outside and actually smell the smoke and see the haze. I mean, this is I know people in California, Northern California, and Oregon. They've lived with this many years, but it's just very strange here. So we'll see how this plays out. Usually it doesn't last that long here, but we'll see. But related to one thing I wanted to talk about, guys, and I hope we don't forget this. It's very important in trying to understand the natural world. And maybe it is less real. I know it's less real than I think it is, but it's certainly much more real than the not milk or the outer ring of the screen or the outer ring in a reality diagram or the asshole dark. Is we shouldn't forget this. When they laid down in 2020 the C, and everybody was forced for the most part indoors. Probably the end of March 2020, early April, in through the end of May. People basically didn't go out and do anything. The streets, at least around here, were empty. There was no cars on the road for 3 or 4 weeks. Very few. Um, the natural world was we don't want to forget this. Just and it recovered. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know how to say it. Things started to change incredibly quickly in the natural world. And for some reason, the not milk or the Ministry of Information needed to cover this story or needed to express this in its news stories. So I remember the first news story that popped up, and I know I'm not expressing this correctly, but do you remember the story in June or so of 2020 about how the pollution, I don't know exactly how to describe it, the pollution around the Venice canals, Venice, Italy, the swans, I remember, are returning to the Venice canals. And I saw it here as well. First of all, the sky, for whatever reason, when the sea was laid down, that act of the play was laid down, the sky returned to something that I hadn't really seen for, I don't want to say that, maybe the 70s or 80s. I remember that sky from going to the apartment pool. Me and a couple guys would go down to this pool. It had a diving board before they removed the diving board for liability reasons, and just sit up and look at clouds, and just it was the sky from my childhood. And that went along with, for some reason, that went along with these stories. Matt, why would they not put these stories out and through the Ministry of Information? I don't know. Sometimes it has to reveal certain things, or it wasn't trying to get control of a narrative. It was just revealing truth. The swans are returning, and the natural world has a way of, again, poor choice of words. I haven't thought this through. Recovering. I would say people would probably confirm what I'm saying if they've seen a forest fire in their part of California, or things start to grow immediately. And maybe there was a little bit of another not nil giveaway. The end of the HBO series Chernobyl. Guys, I'm not getting into it here. This isn't my first rodeo. I'm well aware of all the possibilities surrounding Chernobyl. We're not going to get into it. People are like, I tell you, you Matt, you believe it. Relax. Showed that one of the last scenes showed an inchworm, a little green inchworm, and just I don't know where they were. Maybe they were a few hundred miles away at that point, but it was an expression of like life returning very very quickly, and it did happen when they dropped the C on us. And as much as I worry about the natural world when things happen, that these droughts are the worst to me. I'd much rather take my chance with vicious storms or a tropical storm or a hurricane or something. The dryness is the worst thing to me for whatever reason. But it does seem like the natural world has a way, things we don't understand or can't comprehend, has a natural way of coming back and restoring itself. Maybe similar to the way oil, we're not going to get into that too, but of course, drilling for oil or these Saudi wells, Saudi Arabia Aramco, one of the largest corporations in the world because it's one government-owned company over all of the oil. And it's the same, they've been pumping the same wells out with, millions and millions of gallons of gasoline, a petroleum product being used, I want to say per second, per minute. I mean, the amounts are just staggering. It potentially is millions of gallons a second. A second. This is no well or fossil fuel or limited source that could keep up with that. I've mentioned this before. I probably wrote about it in the last book. My professor, it wasn't Rocks for Jocks. I took Rocks for Jocks because I needed an elective and it was an easy class. It wasn't as easy as they said. At least the professor. There were several that taught it. We went out and did a surveying of rocks and not stalactites and stalagmites, but rock formations and the rocks on the table. The difference, I could tell the difference between pyrite and gold, but other than that, it wasn't that easy. And what was I talking about? Oh, my other, it wasn't Rocks for Jocks. It was another geosciences class. And I've told you this before. The professor, and this guy was published. He'd go to conferences. One of these top professors who's connected in the world of oil and petroleum, not drilling, but is one of these eggheads that go to the egghead seminars. So he was up to date on the most current information, at least whatever was being put out by the ministry. He said to us, looked, and it scared the shit out of us. Well, it really didn't. We were 20 years old. It really didn't. But for a second we paused and we don't give a shit. We're 20 years old and we're invulnerable. He said, by 10 years from now, he said, there will be no there will be these unless they find incredible new supplies and new wells. It's all gone. We have to have a new source of energy in about 10 years. Well, I mean, if there was any truth to if there was any truth to what they say about these wells and it's a limited supply, I mean, they would have if even if they found more, there would be an implementation to ration incredible. There would be no SUV. For 10 years, there would be no SUVs. The only trucks allowed on the road, if any about this story were real, would be big rigs to carry food or supplies or flatbeds that carry backhoe equipment. It would be incredibly rationed. Everybody would have a little smart car. It would be 98% hybrid and electric and things like that. So I know they're not wants to move to that, but it's not about wells going dry. I mean, that's if anybody new here doesn't know where I'm going with this, we'll move on to another topic. It's a renewable, it's a renewable source. It's not a fossil fuel. These wells somehow replenish themselves. They have to. And I guess it is appropriate to go back to the egg chen and the big trouble in Little China. Black blood of the earth, right? Um, Jack, Jack, the black blood of the earth. You mean oil? No, I mean the black blood of the earth. It's the black blood of the earth. It was a truth drop, as there are many truth drops in Big Trouble with Little China. Although I'm still confused why the Lo Pan had the emerald green, and I believe it was Egg Chen who fought with the magenta. So that is, the emerald green is much more pure to me. It's something they've tried to hijack. It's a pure representation of the illusion of this world, in my opinion. And there's much more to it than that, but if I had to put it into a single sentence, and the magenta is a bastardization of everything. It's a digital world, a representation of the digital world replacing more of a natural world, and it's the metaverse. It's the AI. It's bleeding through reality. It's bleeding through. Jeff will tell you the researcher that I mentioned from time to time. It's bleeding through old videos where he'll say, and I've seen it myself. Old videos that had no magenta hue are now magenta'd over. Very similar to a Mandela effect. Very similar. So, guys, let me collect my thoughts. I have a couple things I wanted to talk about. I'll be back. We've talked about one aspect of this recently, but I was talking with Greg about this again not too long ago. If you could go back in time or you could be made 25 again, would you do it? And there's three aspects to it, so we should go over it one more time. And I probably can speak for the old guard, the old souls. I think you're going to be just like me and Greg. So the first scenario is the easy one for the old soul. If somebody would come along now and say, "Hey, I can make you 25 again," here comes Professor Dumbledore from Harry Potter, and we would. Greg's like, absolutely not. So I'd have to live out with this AI. I'd be living to 2060, 2070. And absolute, no way. Wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I don't think you would do it. I don't think the old souls would do it. Now, people would think we're lying, or they wouldn't. People that are out in the world, they wouldn't believe us. They'd say, of course you would if you could be made 25, you'd take it in a heartbeat. Absolutely not. I had to be still in 2023. I'm not trying to depress anybody that's younger that's watching this. You have your journey ahead of you. You likely came into that time period or the time period you came into for a reason. From a real soul's perspective, everything happens for a reason. This is now your journey. I don't want to do it again. I'm in my 50s. I don't want to do another 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 years. So there absolutely would not go back to age 25 now. That's the easy one for the old soul. This one is not so easy. And then the third one we'd take, I think, but let's one at a time. So here comes Dumbledore with his Elder Wand, and there is no, guys. There part of this, the proviso on this is there is no deal with the devil here. There is no price to pay. We have to assume, nobody would do any of this because we would be skeptical living in a not milk world. It's a not milk world for us. We would be skeptical that there'd be a price to be paid on the back end. We would never do any sort of deal or anything like that, or if anybody approached us. But in this example, assume there's no back end price. There's no other side of to the coin. So, Matt, okay, sends you back in time. You can go back to your precious world in the old century that you coveted so much that seems so normal compared to this bozo show. You'll send you back to 1985 at that age. But you have your it's not like you have a mind wipe back to that experience. You have your full knowledge and experience now. Okay, I don't think I would do it. Okay, Greg, I don't think he would do it. Although I'm not so sure what he would say about this one now. I'm kind of confused, though we've talked about it. I wouldn't do it. I don't believe. I really, I don't. This world is very interesting. Gather ye rosebuds while you may, but I don't want any more life than what Matt. Why don't you go jump off a? No, okay. I feel I have that part two of the book, the work. I have that part two that I'm doing now. I'm not nearly done. I have so much more of the work to do. Very, if reality is down to a half page for me, I don't feel I have a whole lot of understanding or knowledge that I'm craving to get at this point. I really don't. I think understanding the knot milk and what it's out to do to real spiritual beings is a half page. So the knowledge side, there's not a whole lot left to do. That Matt, you think you know everything? It doesn't. I'm not saying I know everything. I know enough. I know enough where I don't need to know anymore. I know enough to do what I need to do here. I don't need to know where George Bush goes after an eyes wide shut party. That I don't need to research the knot milk in that way anymore. So, okay, here I am back there. Okay, there'd be a lot of things I'd enjoy. Boy, I'd go to a Van Halen concert and do some stupid stuff, and hey, I'm back in 1985, and hey, I look pretty good, and I'm 25 or whatever it might be, and but I have the knowledge of a 50-some-year-old, and then I knowing what's coming. That's the problem. Knowing hey, that it's the Clinton administration, and it's no, these buffoons, that these it was benign. The knot milk, our adversary, was relatively benign back then. Not compared to what it is now. On its own, it wasn't benign. Matt, it cooked up wars. It of course it still was in love with death. Yes, compared to the absolute monster it has evolved into today, where it's like reality breakdowns every few days. I mean, it's not nearly what it was. It was much more normal or benign, whatever its presentation was in the 80s. But carrying the information I have now, knowing what's coming, it's like, what is that? It's the end of Hot Tub Time Machine. The guy knows who's going to win every Super Bowl, so he makes the right bets. He knows what's going to happen, so he bets on the right stocks. So what if you have that now? I don't care about that stuff. I don't. So let's just say it's what do you do? It would be Monday, September 10th, 2001. Okay, so I agreed to this in this example. I would never agree to this. Sent back in time with my full knowledge and understanding into the younger body. But then here you are, so knowing how, and then you still have that much more of your life to live through it again. I don't want okay, it would be there would be a lot of interesting things, and I would take advantage of the 80s and the 90s much, 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 of course, much more than I did. Every era, you take everything for granted. In the older era, the 70-year-old looks back at the 50-year-old and said, "Boy, I wish, boy, would I have done what I could have done when I was 50." It's just human nature to do that. It's okay. So I would take advantage of more, as would you. But knowing what's coming, I couldn't deal with that. Not the horror of the event, but what the event would mean for how it would be just a catalyst on steroids to how it would change all of society and culture around the world. I mean, and I would, if I did do that though, I would pay attention to see, is reality shifting off to the side or something on this day? But I wouldn't go back in that regard. A lot of you probably would. The final one is easy. Dumbledore comes along and says, I'll send you back to whenever. Has to be within the time period of which you were alive. I can send you 75 or 80 or 85 or 90, but you're in your 50-some-year-old body. Don't you want to go back as your younger age with your full knowledge? No, because then I'd have to, with full knowledge, live through 2001, all the bull crap. I couldn't take it, couldn't do it again. Love to go back to 1980 at 50 something. Absolutely. And then I'd be, maybe I'd make it to the big day in 2001, but it would be short-lived after that. I wouldn't have to go through absolutely. I'd take that in a second. Send me right now back to 1980 with my older self, with the experience I have now. And, soon after the big day, and then you'd have to start taking your shoes off in the damn airport. There would be not much left for me after that. But do not want to go back into the younger body and experience everything all over again. It's like if you're coming to the end it's like a marathon, it's like, well, hey, we've come this far. I just want the finish line at this point. I don't want to jump in front of a bus during the marathon because I have a lot of work to do. But at this point, no, I don't want to go back to mile marker 5. I just want to, it's been a tough slog. And should have smelled the roses a little bit more, enjoyed different things, not taking things for granted. This is just the mistakes we all make in this avatar. But at this point, there's the finish line. Okay, whatever mile marker I'm on, I just let me run the rest of the race, and that's it. Now that is how many people on the street would would even if they're would even they would not only take this offer if there was no price to pay. Many on the street would pay a price. They would well even enter into a Faustian bargain to hold on to life or to be 25 again or 20 again. And it depends. Well, what is the price? They would weigh it. I mean, we wouldn't even do it if there was no price to pay. I don't say, I can't speak for all of you, but again, I'm not sure how many people would believe us or, out in the world. Hey, these people, hey, you're lying. You'd go back. You'd go if somebody could make you 20, you'd take it in a second. If somebody could send you back in time in your 20-some-year-old body, you'd take that in a second, and you'd have full knowledge of what's coming, who's going to win the Super Bowl, who's going to win the Muhammad Ali Joe Frazier fight or whatever. That's even before my time. I know that goes way back, but who's going to win Mike Tyson? Well, Mike Tyson spinks, but you could make a bet as to how quickly he could be knocked out and make a lot of money that way. But you know what I mean? Like even with you certainly would go back, Matt, because you'd have the full knowledge, and then you immediately become a multi-millionaire. Like that really means anything. It did when I was 25, but in terms of where we are now, like that really means anything to anybody. Anyway, all right, guys, what's next? I think I'll do a whole video on this in the future. Was talking to Greg about this as well. If you had to put your understanding of reality or what the not milk is up to or our adversary into one sentence, I mean one sentence. Yeah, of course, it's not going to be complete, and there's going to be a lot of holes. But this is the way I would do it if I had to describe it in one sentence. It is something that is out to turn a real world into a fake world. That's all there is to it. If I had to put it in one sentence, that's not going to be very descriptive. But you generally know what I'm talking about. If it is out to turn a real world into a fake world, and if we were allowed to write more, then what that means is whatever the real world, I don't think most of what's here is not real, as you know my thoughts on that, but it's more real than what they're trying to make it into. The parts that are closer to the side of real on the sliding scale, these are the parts where we can do the work. We can understand about our true nature, understand, why we incarnated here, what life is for. As it can't, in most cases, work us over directly in case, unless you're one of these people that just tries to merge with it, as most people do now, bow down to it. But for those that can't work over directly, that haven't given all their free will over to the not milk, it will turn a real world into a fake world. Again, I know that's not very good, guys, but try to sum up our adversary's intentions in one sentence. So that also, there's so many ways that you could apply that. What they're trying to do to what they call the human being now, move us closer towards the digital. That's the same way of saying to the constant effort and attempt to make a real world into a fake world. As the human, as they call us, we're now called Homo sapien sapien because the modern man is double dumb, sapien sapien. As we move towards the digital, we're moving at least away from something that appeared to be or is more real that to something that's fake, with the goal of simply as it you move towards the fake side of the sliding scale, it becomes harder or almost impossible to fulfill spiritual goals or to do what we're supposed to do here. And there's so many ways to apply this sliding scale. The natural world, nature itself, it tries to remove. Another way of saying it's trying to take somebody towards the digital, trying to remove people from nature. So even though in the past there were still a variety of different assholes, kings and queens and dukes and lords and earls and princes and emperors and sultans. It did not know it was limited. They had to work through these assholes. At least I can only assume this part of history is accurate, guys. I mean, if it's not this, then what are we going to talk about? I'm assuming this part's accurate. But it did not know had limited tools to work with. It just had to work through its kings and queens and its nobility, its assholes. So there's still a lot of people that not know could never really get to or touch directly. So that by that rationale, even if someone's a sharecropper, they're out in nature, they're working for their slave lord that reports to the earl, that reports to the duke, that reports to the queen. They're still out in nature, farming. So it seems like, boy, we have a real advantage in this internet era. Knowledge comes to us so quickly. I don't like the internet any more than you do. There's a direct correlation between the entire flush of society and not recognizing our own friends and family and the internet itself, no doubt about it. But there's always this a yin and yang reality. It did bring us a tremendous amount of information about our adversary, what is going on here, who this creep or minion class is. So somebody that is out working almost like slave labor for some duke or earl or some duke of earl in the old days, well, great, they didn't have access to the information we have, excuse me, but they they're in nature, and there's no doubt the closer you are to nature, the more the spiritual side or those connections to maybe the part of us that's not here is allowed to emerge. The few tribal people that exist in this world and parts of the uh, rainforest in Brazil or the Amazon rainforest and uh, many countries in Africa still have tribal people, Papua New Guinea people. You'd say again, maybe some of this culture is still carried through a tiny bit with the American Indian or the Native Americans or the Aborigines in Australia. But why were the Native Americans allowed the casinos? I mean that you could say, well, they were always allowed to do what they wanted to do in their own property. Well, why didn't they have the casinos before 25 years ago? Takes them one further giant leap away from their spiritual roots. It's never ending, the Terminator in this regard. So these tribes around the world, they seem very primitive. They are very primitive, but what do they know about their spiritual selves? I bet they know a whole lot more than quote modern man, no matter how primitive they seem. There's a big part of the book that I'm writing now, well, maybe 10 pages, about how it's not a coincidence that the repeating theme on the tribes or the indigenous peoples around the world were all killed off, or rounded up, or displaced, or whatever by the colonial West. I mean, it's such a repeating theme. You have to see it. You have to back up and see it as why is not milk reality trying to do business in this way? Ponce de Leon, Cortez, Magellan, Peter Stuyvesant, he was fighting wars. I mean, down in the island nations before he came to really screw over the Indians of Manhattan as the first governor. Just a coincidence today that his great great nephew is a billionaire. That's just a coincidence. There's no Matt. He worked hard for the he worked hard for that money. No, there's no bloodlines or anything. There's no connections, Matt. You're not one of those types of people, are you? Come on, sir. Peter Stuyvesant. I don't know if it's his great 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 grandson or whatever. You won't see the name of that high school change. I assure you, Matt. They might change it now just to spite you. They might, but he that's where he got the peg leg. Peter Stuyvesant. He fought battles on the island nations where the before most of the island nations, it's a black-skinned people like Jamaica, for example. Uh, Islands are all the way even as far down as Aruba. But before that, there was the Arawan. They were natives there, like an Indian native, like Arawan natives were there. So every single one of these tribal people, going back hundreds and hundreds of years, uh, were displaced. It's such a repeating theme. It's not a coincidence. It's like there's something here, something dark that needs to do business in a certain way, remove a spiritual sense of self from tribal people. Would it be a huge leap to say that might even be a similar reason why the British or the East India companies addicted, a fifth of the entire country of China to opium? I mean, just was there a tribal sense or a spiritual sense in those people that was trying to be snuffed out by addicting the entire country to opium? If you interviewed the leaders of the East India Company, like most of these minions, they don't know the big picture. They don't even understand not milk, in my opinion. You could interview the East India people or the East India Trading Company, of which there's a British and a Dutch version, and I don't understand the difference between them, but they both were the same sort of asshole. You'd say, well, you're addicting this huge swaths of China because you're trying to remove their spiritual sense of self. They would say, what? What are you talking? What you talking about, Willis? They said we're doing it for the money, man, and they were actually forced those poor devils to pay them in silver. They had to pay them in silver. That's the history. And how much did Chinese, you know, in the rice paddies have a bunch of silver laying around? That's what. Whenever they could be paid in silver, that's part of the story. And the point is, the minions wouldn't know ultimately what they're doing or why they're doing it, while they're displacing or rounding up or killing off this indigenous population to remove that indigenous population from their spiritual sense of self. The game that the Not Milk plays, it's the same sentence, but it's just a different application of that same sentence every single era or every single 100 years or every single generation. What's the it in all what did it have back in the day? It had its explorers. It had its colonization of the West and its expansion, and it worked through its minions, those on its radio stations and its frequencies. It sent out its fleets of ships from France and Spain and Portugal and the UK. And how come Germany's landlocked? It didn't have no fleet. They just sailed around in little ponds in Germany. They sent them out and they removed indigenous peoples from their spiritual sense of self the best that they could with whatever tools they had available. They didn't know. You could interview Ponce de Leon's crew. He wouldn't know what the hell you're talking about. But so this proves to a degree that the minions even of today, they don't we give them way too much credit to know the big picture of what's happening. Melvin P. He understands his role to a degree. He understands what C really is and his role in event whatever 20 blank, and but in terms of the big picture, I don't think I'm convinced no minion who you know on television, if you know the name and face and it's presented in this billionaire list, these aren't the real people in control or in power. They would never show their face. And even they, I doubt they have a full understanding of what the outer screen or not milk is all about. But they would have a much, much better understanding than Melvin P. I think we understand more than Melvin P. or Bezos. I've no doubt about that. No doubt about that. I could hand Melvin the concentric rings diagram, and he wouldn't know what the hell he's thinking of handing him a menu at Wendy's or something. He didn't know what the hell it is. What's this thing out here? The screen, the asphalt dark, the not milk. That Melvin, that's what's influencing you. That's why you're getting your orders from other, but that's what's influencing all of you to do to remove us all from off our spiritual journey. Or you're like, what the hell are you talking about? You want Das prompt? He wouldn't know what the hell we're talking about. I'm convinced of this. The minions we know on TV, they don't know shit. There is a group somewhere else. They're really the masters of the creepy table. Even they aren't the final adversary, but they would know. They would know more. It's like, where do you think all this old money went? All the old money. I talked to my friend Tony. Where'd it all go? Vanderbilt, Harriman, Morgan, Astor, Rothschild. Well, the Rothschilds are still, and Rockefellers are still prominent. They put their face on the news and things like that. But there's all these old names, Getty, all the old money names. And I know, when Matt, that went into images, and okay, in the Getty Museum up there. I mean, okay, but where's the families? Where's the people? And it's usually a repeating theme about the money, that the money is it's money's gone. It's just dried up. It's a similar theme that is laid down associated with Anderson Cooper and his relationship to Vanderbilt's. Ridiculous, ridiculous. My friend Tony would say, Matt, he would give the same scripts. I've talked to him about it. So where's all the old money? Matt, the newer generations mismanaged the money, and they mismanaged the money. They didn't have to pick no dot-com winner. All they had to do was sit on the savings account. They were trillions. They didn't have to do anything. My favorite examples of all time, the what is it? The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman and Mrs. Robinson, and they give him a big stock tip. And after that, if you would have put your money, it was similar to a Forrest Gump tip, I think. Remember, in The Graduate, he comes out, he's got his graduation. It's probably the first time he meets Mrs. Robinson, and somebody comes, son, I got some advice to you. Advice for you: plastics. The famous part of the old movie, plastics. Like I don't know if then he says invest in plastics or whatever. That's your future. Well, there was one schmuck sitting in the audience that had a clue in The Graduate. 1968 or 9 or 71, something like whatever. And he said that's a hint of some kind, or even if he didn't know what he was doing, he put a bunch of money in plastics. DuPont, Dow Chemical, Dow Corning, there were different companies at the time. He would have made a ton of money. No different than Forrest Gump, where it was an absolute truth drop about almost like a message to the minions. Lieutenant Dan put us invested in some sort of fruit. I never do Forrest Gump well. I'll just stop. And don't sing that damn "Hello Baby, Hello Darling" again. I won't. But Lieutenant Dan got us invested in some sort of fruit. Now we don't got to worry about money no more. One less thing. If you would have invested in Apple, he was Forrest Gump. This is back in the 70s, going back in time when Steve and Steve had just gotten out of their garage, and their first uh, computer was $666.66. But if you would have, at that time, Apple was like $14 a share. Anybody that saw that movie, there was one schmuck probably that said, this is a hint of some kind. $10,000 on Apple would have gone to 2, 3, 4 million today if it was done when somebody watched the movie Forrest Gump in the theater. So, and they still do that, guys. I could, if I see one blatantly, I'm not going to go invest. I'll never own another. I'm all about, at this point in my life, detaching from everything, cutting every single Jacob Marley chain, detaching with. I mean, I don't need to do little ceremonies, but I do little ceremonies. I'll tell you. I'll say this movie reveals the future or what AI company is going to come out on top or whatever, but I won't invest in it. I just don't care. I don't give a shit. Um, I ripped up my National Honor Society card the other day. I found it. My mom is just for some reason she's like, Matt, take this box. The stuff she's had for a long time. She's like, take it, go through it if you want it. If not, I end up throwing 90% of it out. A few things I kept, like I showed you that report I did with the newspaper ads. Remember, it was Moses Malone under the basket with Samson. What is Ralph Sampson? So it was Moses against Samson and all that weird stuff I found. There was like some weird synchronicity, of which there were 15 commenters that believed it was fake, that believed it wasn't it wasn't a real project from my school work. Guys, in terms of as I said about the tolerance for comments, I owe it to the people that come to this channel for the comments, even for more than this. I am going to clean up the comments at every turn. So I came across National Honor Society. It has a logo. It could be a flag. It could be somebody holding a torch, or I don't know what the National Honor Society for high school. But it is like I hate the word initiation. Hate it. Our goal for real people is to be initiated in nothing. So to me, I said, this is an initiation of some kind. That's what the not milk wants, or the dark part of reality wants us in this camp, or initiated in this, whatever that means. I can't stand the word. But I said, okay, whatever this is, I agreed to join into this. This is an initiation of some kind, or a Jacob Marley chain. I denounce it, rip the card up, and then I've done this general affirmation so many times. I'm not in any of these camps or clubs. Whatever I was tricked into being enrolled in, or to give my acceptance or energy into, or help feed the egregore, or initiated, what I'm in. Whatever I was tricked into doing, it's all null and void. Even though I've give the general affirmation, I've um, I ripped up the card. So I'll do a little mini ceremony too. And again, I don't dabble. I've never dabbled in any sort of magic. I have no interest in understanding sigil magic. I don't care one bit. But we are all powerful beings that carry, to a degree, our own magic and authority. And I mean, I think the general affirmations are enough, but I ripped it up. I've done it so many different ways, and you don't have to do this as long as you. I do recommend the general affirmation that these Jacob Marley chains don't apply. We do need to see the trick, acknowledge the trick, and separate. I don't think the specifics need to be done. It's kind of fun. I found a marketing honor society that I was, fooled into spending it, whatever it was, $50. I mean, $50. What did you? It says to get all the privileges. I think it was called Mu Capital. Okay, I forget exactly, but I think it was called Mu Capital. I remember speaking to my mother or father about it. Well, you're a marketing major, Matt. You could put this on your resume. That's all they care about. But it's not. That's all they care about. The people that manage this fake club, this honor society, that take your dues and your money. But it is some sort of initiation. Again, why are the not milk at the outer screen level? It needs you to join as many camps and clubs as necessary, and it does act like a chain or a weight on your spiritual self to a degree. So I ripped it up. I thought, this is ridiculous. Well, what did I know back when I was college? And my parents should have known better. They really should have. I've looked back on some of the advice I've gotten, and I love my parents, and they've done their best. But what would you say to a young person today saying, sophomore year or junior year of college, it's $50 to enroll in this honor society? Well, I said, well, of course not. It's a scam. Don't. It made a little bit of sense, I guess. Back in the day, the world was different, and maybe my mother would say in her defense, it's just about filling up a resume, Matt. They don't. Some of the people that were going to hire you might not know it's a scam, and there's something to that because the world was a much simpler place back then. And even though it was a scam, there's something that being said about getting it and putting on the damn resume and whatever. It just shows that you achieved a certain GPA, but then that, the magna cum laude or the summa cum laude shows that, whatever. So anyway, as I come across this, I really enjoy my little ceremony. I don't I don't burn no candles and no pentagrams. I just enjoy going, whatever this is, I remove all power from it and rip it up and throw it out. And Matt, do you feel the weight leaving? No, I don't feel the weight leaving me from a damn stupid scam honor society that was presented to me. There's another one. It was a freshman honor society. That was another $50 that we were scammed into doing, that I found and ripped up. And the diploma, I haven't ripped that up yet. I have not ripped. I don't think I'm going to. Well, Matt, aren't you afraid that could be a Jacob Marley chain that affects you in the moment of death? No. At this point, once you have a certain understanding, you're doing the work, nothing Nothing like that can stop us. Ain't no stopping us now. No, I'm not worried about any of that little stuff anymore. Neither should you be. It's just fun to do it. So, guys, in general, just notice everything you've been asked to join. It's not all evil, I guess. I mean, well, I was a Boy Scout, Matt. How do I deal with that? I don't know. I mean, it's probably fine. I don't know. You could research the Boy Scouts and see, is it as evil as the roots of the World Wildlife Federation, the WWF, who when I worked in Delaware here for the insurance company before they sent me to Los Angeles, we used to go call on. It became a client, and I was like the account manager for the World Wildlife Federation because we had a lot of these nonprofits in Washington D.C. And you look at, they're all these nonprofits. They're all in these beautiful buildings with the marble entranceway. It's like, well, I thought you're supposed to be a nonprofit. Who paid for all this? Well, but then the roots, they still, I don't know if this is true, but we've heard this many times. The roots of the World Wildlife Federation about protecting ecosystems and rainforests and protecting the world's endangered species that was started by somebody that was like a lion hunter who'd take a big elephant gun out to Africa and shoot. Guys, that I believe it. I do believe it, even though I haven't researched it thoroughly. I've heard bits and pieces about this. It's just the way this not milk reality works. It's always an inversion. Not always. Again, like, is the roots of the Boy Scouts evil? I don't know. I mean, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. It just seems like everything works that way here. So just notice that it's similar to being tricked into having to use the driver's license and the straw man and the legal fiction, but you need that to drive. So it's something you continue to use that. You don't rip it up, but you remove its power the best you can when you get it. I want to talk about some of the comments, some of the bizarro comments from the last video, which was on Michigan J. Frog. And it relates to a bigger topic I wanted to talk about for a while about just the segmentation within camps. And it's happening even inside our own truth community, but it's not that small. I mean, people that investigate truth or conspiracy, there's so many different camps and factions. And this is a not milk tactic. It is a symptom of how the not milk does business. So I don't know how to really start talking about this. And 30 years ago, there was Republicans and Democrats, and if you were starting to question how the world worked inside Republican, there's this conservatism where you start to object to a government that wastes $1 billion a day, and why is this so mismanaged all the time? And you start to wake up to a few things like that, and it's a natural process. But it was generally the groups generally agreed with each other. And it's just further and constant segmentation. It is how the not milk does business. So, as an example, today, in this general sense, we have no affinity or brotherhood with conservatives. Where 10 years ago we had tremendous, no, they didn't see a certain mall event. These people didn't see a certain school event. Or my uncle would keep coming to me as a Republican saying, Matt, if you want things to change in this world, we just need to win more elections. I mean, fooled to that degree. But we were one group, all right. Again, one of the things that I bring to the table at this point is 14 years in the middle of this and a perspective. And now we are absolutely divided into so many different segments. We have no, I'm just using this as an example. It's a bad example. We have no affinity or see conservatives that still associate in some degree with the Republican Party as our brothers. Absolutely not. We have nothing in common, and the segmentation and the slicing and dicing continues. So now it's really bad inside our own truth research community, where we had minor disagreements 7 or 8 or 10 years ago. We were breaking down the mall events and the fake events and the Elon Musk type send the toaster up events, and we had some disagreements, but now it's that same world, that vitriol, and it's further, is that is that the purpose of the Mandela effect? It's a further segmentation. And you can see the people that aren't Mandela affected. I don't know. It's like does it create the Hatfields and the McCoys? To a degree, it does. Again, in the old days, you would say, well, these people are really big thinkers and open-minded, and they're our brothers. And over here, we're big thinkers and open-minded, and we don't see everything they see, but we work together, we move together. Ooh, there's so much divide. And I see it in the comments. The comments section, and it is a result too of a channel just getting larger, but the comments, they get very nasty very quickly. Didn't and I know, Matt, when you were 12,000 subscribers, Matt, it's not going to be that. That's a part of it. I agree. And but I'm just again, I've mentioned, if the comment is not trying to help us move forward, say, Matt, this is wrong. You need to stop talking about the Mandela effect for this reason. But then it's almost never that. It gets nasty. The comment I remember. I just want to go over a few comments as I remember them. There was one that's still there. I replied to, saying, instead of just saying, Matt, I think you're going wrong here or there. It was like it was like a belittlement. You made this mistake. I would expect more from you, or something along that. You made this mistake, when the person making the comment was actually making the mistakes. But and then, Matt, it was a very underhanded jab. Like, you really should sit down with somebody before you make a presentation, because you're embarrassing yourself. I don't. It wasn't that bad, but that's the message that came out of it. And I replied, because the person was wrong about their main points. I said, well, you should actually sit down with somebody before you decide to comment, because you're embarrassing yourself. And it wasn't those exact words. But if the commenter could have just said, Matt, hey, I've been listening for a few years. Let me try to tell you where you're going wrong, and I wish everybody the best. Okay, great. It's always a nastiness to it, and that reveal, that the person is not genuine in trying to help us out. Whenever it gets nasty, it's not somebody we want here. It's not somebody we would want to be, I would say, on the boat with. But that's a bad example for us on the Ship of Fools. We don't want to be on the same beach as them. If they believe they dived off the Ship of Fools, they're climbing onto another Ship of Fools boat. None of us that really want to move things forward would ever get nasty with somebody that you think's trying to help. Um, there's many shield channels that put themselves out as truthers. If you think they're working for an alphabet house, or you think they're a minion on the payroll of the not, no, well, you should be. That's your adversary. You can be nasty to them. If you think I'm a stable diffusion character that works for a secret society, then be nasty. But if you think I'm somebody that's trying to help, I mean, who would ever, these comments get too nasty, this vitriol too quickly. And then there were, for the last video, this is the most bizarro comment I've ever seen. And there were three or four along the same lines. I think only one or two I removed from the channel because they got nasty. Get nasty, you're gone. I mean, that doesn't help anybody. But it was, Matt, you because of what you did here with the Michigan J. Frog Mandela effect video, you've revealed yourself to be an agent. Like, you've revealed yourself to be a double agent. Your job is to get subscribers to notice. It was so bizarre, I can't even describe it to you. To notice where these residuals linger, and then you expose the residual, and then you tell the company about it so they fix it. And like, you told the Chuck Jones Corporation about it, and they fixed it. So it was like some sort of gigantic crime that, through my actions of emailing, the residual was removed. Like if it's still, first off, I mean, this is literally one of the most bizarre comments, and it wasn't just one. There were at least there were three that were really like this, and maybe one other that could be construed along the same lines. I think one I might have removed from the channel, or two. I don't know. But so what? So I'm a villain? Matt, thou art a villain for actually finding the residual and telling them about it so they can get rid of it. So let me get this straight. Let's just go back to the Chuck Jones website yesterday. It says right at the top on the frog page, I'm not going to turn this into a 30-minute Mandela effect video. This is about the comment. Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. So again, this is what defines that character. So you think these people think that that would just be there forever? Nobody's ever going to catch it. The guy that he sells the paintings or the lithographs or whatever for $1,500 for Michigan J Frog. So nobody, see, everybody that's going to buy the painting is synced up to the new reality, quote, new reality. Everybody believes it's honey at this point because it is honey and it always has been honey. It still was amazing to me via the comment section of the last video how many people still don't understand the Mandela effect. It's just, it's like when I'm talking to Tony and that reality bubbles are pushing against each other. He's telling me why it's completely makes perfect sense why there's two toasters billions of miles away sending back signals and why Houston can still get the signals. And I'm trying to say how impossible that is. If those things were like around the corner, it would be hard to get the signal. Not so our reality bubbles are just pushing against like two beach balls. They don't mesh, and that's seems to be happening with a lot of comments where people, as many times as we go over the basics on how this Mandela effect works, I just don't get it. I don't. It's like you just there's no conjoining of the reality bubbles, and it could be a separate reality. We're keeping that for them or for my friend Tony. We're keeping that on the table. But back to the comment. So so people that buy the $1,500 paintings, no one's ever gonna notice that they got the phrase wrong, and nobody's ever gonna fix it. So it's I'm the villain for exposing it to them so they could fix it right away. So that these residuals, if people didn't tell them, they would be there for 10 or 15 more years. Well, wouldn't it make sense that somebody eventually is going to see it? My interest is observing how the human download works, how the difference between the process of whenever I've reached out to people and I told them about the Mandela effect, how really weird it got, how they didn't get back to me or they changed a certain part, or where in this time I used a different variable in my equation. I so I'm going to reach out to them, just tell them it's wrong, but I'm not going to mention the Mandela effect. Immediately got a response back. It was immediately taken care of, which is also very, very strange. The person that made that comment I referenced 5 minutes ago was like, Matt, so, or maybe it was a different comment. It was like, oh yeah, it really is really amazing, Matt, that you were speaking to the communications person that does the website, and then they made a change because they made a major mistake. It really is incredible, Matt, that video you present. I'm like, first of all, I wasn't speaking to anybody. Second of all, I sent a general inquiry to the general box. You know how long it takes some. First off, send an inquiry to the general box of Coca-Cola or wherever. See if you get a reply. The general mailbox. So it makes it even more incredible. The person that maintains the general mailbox saw it immediately, prioritized it, sent it to the communications person that's responsible for the website, and the website was updated in less than an hour based on an inquiry to the general mailbox. Am I missing something, or that makes it even more amazing? So but anyway, these people are like, so I'm an agent because my job is to get, first of all, I make one or two Mandela effect videos every 6 months. If if I was making video after video where all we do is try to find the residual and then go tell the company to correct the residual, anyway, it's not worth. It's so bizarro. Um, yeah, I really should not have allowed those people to remain. I mean, it's just oof, some of the comments do remain. And one last time, guys, if it's I can take the criticism, I really can. Just tell me nicely where I'm going wrong. Anything other than that, why would I care? If I have 100,000 subscribers, 70,000, 90, never ran an ad, never took a penny from Google or YouTube for ads. That's what matters. Subscriber count, view count when you run ads. Never ran an ad. It's a tiny little percentage of people here support me monthly. Why would I care about the number of subscribers? I don't. Last thing I wanted to talk to you about, guys, is for some reason I want to form a theory, a more defined theory on why the movie studios like Disney, and this is related to the AI, so hear me out. Why the movie studios are ruining their own franchises and out to ruin their own what would be considered on a balance sheet assets and properties on purpose. So, but this is related to a theory how they're going to use and replace the human with the AI. So, I know people like rolling their eyes. I don't want to talk about these movies again, Matt, but it'll be more about the typical things we talk about in just a minute. So, There's not too many of these movie reviewers that I still watch, guys, but the one that I'm still subscribed to this one. I forget the name. He calls the Disney remakes LAR 18, LAR 17, LAR 16, live action remake 16. I think was Pinocchio that destroyed the original cartoon Pinocchio. Live action remake movie 17, I think he would say was Peter Pan that destroyed the original Peter Pan because these live action remakes, he calls them LARs, are so horrible. They take the whole ship down with it. It's like it's coming to me like despot of something or other. Okay, he's a Irish presenter, very funny. Puts a lot of time and effort into his videos. Very interesting. Oh boy. So there are various theories as to why all this is being made bad on purpose, but a newer theory could be about the AI. And I think they want the AI. And this is again, I don't know where I'd put all my chips right now. I just want to float this, and I haven't thought about it in detail. So let's just walk through it together. I think they want the AI within, or it could maybe be able to do it now. They want the AI to write the movies, to do as much regarding content as possible. And they're kind of in a little bit of a pickle, Disney and these other studios, because they have this huge infrastructure of people. And it's almost like they're setting themselves up for bad financial results. And some people are actually starting to talk now that Disney only has $200 million of working capital. I heard this in a video not long ago. Is anybody saying Disney's about to go out of business? No, but it's starting to be floated that they're not doing well and the stock's down. And, as the finances, I'm saying their financial woes to me, it's all by design because there never really is any financial woes. I mean, they all report or sit around the same creepy table. So let me just get right to the ending and then we'll talk about the details later. And imagine if somebody stumbled upon this video, how insane this would be. But we know this is even if it's wrong, it's closer to the truth than what the evening news presents. Um, Create a situation where you just have horrible live action remakes, horrible productions, horrible Star Wars. Put yourself on purpose into a horrible financial situation where it'll start floating. You could go out of business, or who knows? Will they put Disney into Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which is a restructuring? Then see if they want the AI to take over all movie writing. Can the AI direct? They want the AI to do as much as possible. There's no doubt in my mind of that. All the writing probably can do it now and do it very, very well. But they have these people. And in order to make huge layoffs, I mean gigantic layoffs, this is also potentially related to the writer's strike right now. In order to cut back to nothing, well, maybe they want to cut 80%, who knows? They have to be in a very horrible financial situation to do that, which is all cooked up. If they sit at the creepy table, there's never any finance problem. It would allow them to lay off, if they have to do this maybe a year from now when the news gets really bad, tens of thousands of people or more. Then they have the AI then doing the writing. Now, what they've done, look how they've thrown the writers. They want the AI doing the writing because you can see how the script is playing out. And again, imagine how crazy this would be to my friend Tony or anybody stumbling upon this. But it is, I think you'll agree, this is close to the truth. Um, we don't know exactly, but this is, I think we're getting in the ballpark. The writers' strike combined with how horrible everything is. What are all these movie reviewers? What do? They just badmouth the writers. And the writers are woke writers, and they push SJW themes, and they push the Sesame Street sponsors the letter T. It's not ism T. It's TR. They push these lifestyle choices. The people, these movie reviewers, their goal is to get the people, as at least the entire conservative base, to be extremely pissed off at the woke movement, at the writers. And then they say, get rid of them all. Now, when they're able to introduce a movie that they'll say is written by the AI or whatever, as much as the AI can be involved, produce the graphics, everything will be AI as much as possible. If this isn't going anywhere, I know I'm all over the place, but let me just ask you the simple question. The first AI movie that comes out, do you think it will be good, bad, mediocre, or spectacular? Pause for 5 seconds. It certainly won't be bad, but will it be? Some people might say, I'm saying absolutely spectacular because that's what they want. Some people might say, well, Matt, it'll be average because the AI isn't quite there yet. You don't know where the AI is. Whatever's been revealed to us, they have other things, and we don't know where the AI is. It doesn't matter how many videos Matt Wolf comes out with tells us about the AI advancements. They have hundreds of other things that they have that they're not telling us about. In my opinion, the first movie that's primarily AI will be absolutely spectacular. Spectacular. They can make spectacular movies now. These dumbass movie reviewers think they can't. Of course they can. Like we said, you, me, and Greg book us into the room. We could do it ourselves. They have the greatest minds. Of course they could do it. So I wonder, what do these Disney employees think around the water cooler? That fascinates me. But when the AI first movie, by the way, this Oppenheimer will be spectacular because it's their baby. They need, we talk about how real is this arms race. I'm not going to say too much. How real is it? And it needs to every bit of it, no matter what is actually real in the ground, every bit of the scare of it, every bit of it needs to be believed in. And the actor they used, this guy from Peaky Blinders, I forget his name. He was young when he played that in that Batman role where he put that sack over his head and had the spray, and he wasn't that great then, but this guy is good. He is a good, really good actor. Oppenheimer, I've seen the trailer. I've seen 2 minutes of it once. I don't know if there's any Cannes Film Festival reviews. I haven't seen. It will be spectacular, in my opinion, because it is their baby. Similar to the way they allowed Top Gun Maverick to be spectacular. It had some issues actually. We could have corrected a lot of things, but it was good. I mean, I don't want to look a quote gift horse in the mouth, but it is the military. It's their baby. Um, when Oppenheimer will prove they can make a good movie. I mean, it's so obvious that what Disney is doing is ruination on purpose. But you have a whole group of people that are so pissed at the writers strike. You're striking when you've just done nothing. You've destroyed your woke SJW. You've destroyed Pinocchio. You've destroyed Peter Pan. And then a year from now, they'll come out with Snow White. It'll be LAR 20, live action remake 20 will be Snow White. Anybody think that'll be good? Of course, it will destroy it unless this one is AI managed. This could be the one because Snow White is it is the baby for Disney. It is what catapulted Disney to world-renowned fame with Snow White, the animation from say 39 or so. Because it is their baby, will they allow it to be destroyed like everything else? If they don't, I think the take on will be different. AI was involved, or the writers will be out. They want Hollywood, I guarantee you, wants these writers, they want people out. It's very similar to transhumanism. The transhumanism movement across the entire Milk is about removing people, always the digital, the AI over the human element. Remove it wherever possible. Dehumanize, transhumanize, Ray Kurzweil it. Whatever that's a says like a transitive verb, whatever. I just made that up. You Ray Kurzweil something. You remove its humanity. You remove its real to make it into the fake. So they want the AI to these writers, you know, how do we, around the creepy table, they might say, how do we get the West to hate our writers? And well, we do it by putting in place people that are just incompetent, that they're trying their best, but the people that put together She-Hulk, we at one point thought that it was made bad on purpose, like they're just like, oh, we're going to do it bad on purpose. No, that's not how it works in my opinion. They put people in place to manage everything that are just they know is going to screw it up. Like why it's Kathleen Kennedy at Disney and Ryan Johnson and people that couldn't write good storyboarding for their eighth grade class. They put these complete incompetents. Is That's like an adjective? Is that an adjective? They put these incompetents into that. No, it's a noun describing incompetence. You put these people in place that simply can't do the job, and then it's destroyed. But then you can blame them. Oh, blame when any first grader would say, well, any first grader would say if business was real or the corporate presentation was real, Kathleen Kennedy would have lost her job just weeks after The Force Awakens. But she's still there now. What would it be? Almost 10 years later, or I guess a little bit less. A first grader would notice that's just impossible. So you put incompetence in place, which I'm sorry, it's an adjective turned into a noun. Um, then it fails. Then you have everybody blaming the writers. So let's just somehow they'll be allowed to sneak out, and I don't know when it'll come. It might come with Snow White, but I doubt it. I'm expecting another, even though it's their baby. See that maybe that's will get people even more upset at the writers if the baby of Disney and everybody's favorite, hi ho, if that's destroyed, then people will really get upset at these woke writers and just say, get rid. I don't care if they all go homeless or get rid of them. So the first opportunity to have the AI doing everything, what do you think it's going to be? It will be spectacular, whether it be Snow White or whatever it may be. And the people will say, or Disney will say, and the people will agree, all by design, all part of a plan, all part of a script. They'll say, we can't, we need our entertainment. And then the AI will bang out a series like Game of Thrones, and we need the AI to be writing. We don't care about your writers union, and the people will support them getting rid of all of them. Well, 90%. You won't see another. It's just the writers union's done. They're just done. They don't care about people, of course. So it's useful idiots, just like everybody else that's inside the not milk system. So that's the main thing I'm asking. Um, and when that first AI movie comes out or series that's just spectacular, well, they could have been doing that all along. They could have been doing that all along with real people. With me, you, and it's my favorite thing to talk about of all time, and I always say that a lot, but any of you, just me, you, and Greg in a Motel 6, and the pool out back is not filled. There's still jackhammering and making noise, and on a highway, the Waffle House. 2 days, we could do 10 times better than what was put out via The Force Awakens. They put a big name on it. They put what J.J. Abrams, or they'll put a big name, and everybody thinks, well, they just did the best that they could. No, maybe J.J. Abrams was in on it, and they said J.J. He could be very high, not milk connected. He might know about Made Bad on purpose. But these lower level idiots that they put in, that here's this person's going to be responsible for doing She-Hulk. They're trying their best. They're just they could be an NPC. Who knows what these minions are, these creatures? But they're not capable of. They could the U.S. Olympic team could put me down to run the 4 by 100. I mean, I can barely walk sometimes with my hip. Hand me the baton. I'm going to try my best, but they've put the team in a situation to fail by putting me as the anchor leg. Was it Justin Gatling come running up? Hand me the baton. He was running into his late 30s. I don't. I wouldn't surprise he's still doing it, but I doubt he's so old. He's been around forever. Hands me the baton. I just limp, and even the Bulgarian team would run by me if it was the real Olympics. But I'm trying my best, right? That's what the director and the producers of She-Hulk, they're trying their best. They're just such low fiddle and bends creatures, and their bias and their need to do the woke and the SJW, and they feel hurt by this group and hurt by men, and they can't help themselves. That's why they're put into the position to manage these things. As long as those types of creatures that we can sniff out a mile away are managing these projects, the project is doomed, of course, but it's meant to be doomed. So, I'm sticking to this theory that no matter what, the first AI movie will be phenomenal, and that will usher in. It just moves society one more level towards the metaverse, towards the AI. Look how wonderful it is over here. It brought us our movies back again. It brought us our Indiana Jones back again. Maybe they'll even recreate the characters with a meta a younger version where it will look completely photorealistic and lifelike. That's why maybe the new Indiana Jones shows an old man um, struggling to take orders from as usual, a young uh, witchy bitchy woman. What's a witchy woman? What's that? ELO or something? That's evil woman. Witchy woman. It's all by design. We don't want this old Harrison Ford, and then the AI will show it'll be photorealistic, um, a 35-year-old Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones. That's not Harrison Ford. That is an AI character. And the movie will be spectacular, and people will love the AI for it. This is all part of the script. See what you think in the comments. Thanks, guys.